think it is important that always preceding a new way of doing things is a destruction of the old way of doing things. And I don't think that's anything to be afraid of. It isn't the case that you can move from one moving train that is going north and just jump across from the cars to the other train that's moving south without actually getting off. So you have to get off and stand there in the wilderness, scratching your head, looking at both trains disappearing. It's not possible to smoothly step from one system into another. There's always a point where we had a certain, let's say, equilibrium for a long time. A system, before it coalesces into something new, has to lose its equilibrium. And that is what we're seeing now. It's not a bad thing that this happens. And it's also not something that is entirely within the control of the powers that be, the elites. They're in a state of anxiety that is not far away from everyone else's, so it's not something that they are in total control of. Conspiracy people can kind of take the foot off the accelerator a bit, because it's not quite like that. It doesn't quite work like that. Things are fundamentally weird, and nobody really gets to pull the levers on every single thing that goes on. You can just steer things a little bit, surf left or right a little bit, and that's about it. So this disequilibration, to me, is a sign that the consciousness is changing. Where there was extraordinary deceit before that went completely unchecked, that's becoming less possible now in governmental circles and in elite circles. It's not so easy to do that anymore. So there is a fundamental shift in the power structures from localized pockets and states and counties and organizations and so on to hugely centralized edifices. And that's where a lot of the comment about division of the earth into just a few small sectors, like this huge European superstate, and the disintegration of the US dollar, which seems to be almost upon us, or if not has already happened, and there's just this surrogate just tiding us over till this this American Mexican currency comes in. All these ideas and things being put into place, contingency plans they are, contingencies for trying to accommodate this change. And for me, the best way to anticipate change is to actually be that change and to be part of that change. If you can change what you do yourself on a day-to-day basis and where your resources come from, and again, not just your material resources, but your social and emotional resources, and where does your inspiration come from? Where does your fulfillment come from? How much joy is there? Where do those things come from? How are you creating them? Or are you just expecting to consume them from elsewhere?
Stuff moves through a system from extraction to production to distribution to consumption to disposal.
So the idea of consumption being slowly diminished is a key resonator for me in these times, because people are not consuming in the way that they used to do. Despite any statistics and any polls that come out, if you walk around a large British or American shopping mall 20 years ago, and then fast forward 10 years and look at it, and then fast forward to today and look at it, it's very, very different inside who's actually in there now, and the demographic of people who are in there now, and who is considering consumption at that material level as a leisure activity that is satisfying. That's very different now.
There's nobody down here.
So even in the mainstream, even at a basic common level, people are beginning to understand that there's some sort of obligation, if you're going to do something about making things better, to actually create that for yourself. Not only in what you choose to buy and what you don't choose to buy, and not only what you buy for the resources that you put in your mouth, but also for the things that cultivate your mind. So the drop-off of watching cinema releases and believing popular music to be any sort of representative slice of what people want to hear is not purely due to digital revolutions and stuff. It's because people know it's fundamentally low quality, it's low fidelity, it doesn't actually give you anything. It's an expression of something that is really quite dehumanizing. There's a shift in that. This state of disintegration, which is quite a natural thing, it's quite an organic thing, which precedes a new way of doing things. And what people aren't sure about is, well, I know I don't want to do this anymore, but hand on heart, I'm not entirely sure what I do want to do. It's a very difficult thing to say that. Easy to say what you don't want. Quite tricky, quite slippery to lay your hands upon what you do want to do. And that's for anyone, myself included, everybody I know, it's always the same. Even if you win the state lottery and millions of dollars land in your hand, you're still in the position where, well, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Are you just going to luxuriate in material sensations? Or what are you going to do with that? How are you going to shift your growth in that respect? How is that going to change? Are you going to hide away? Are you going to try and escape? Or are you going to do something? So it brings us back always, this thinking, to the idea, which is crucial in understanding this, which is what I call the construct.
Normalizes the perception of everything and everybody. This conditioning, this construct is echoed through all hubs of the system. It's everywhere. Everywhere we look, this construct stares back at us.
And the construct really is a map that is given to us, given to everybody when they first arrive, when they first show up on Earth. And unlike a normal two-dimensional map, which just shows us pictures of where things are and how we get to them and so on, the construct is a deeply immersive, three-dimensional virtual reality that kind of plugs straight into your senses. And it tells us what things are and how they work and how we interact with them and what they mean. And babies and adults repeatedly are told what a thing is until they no longer question what they've been told. This is this, it's not something else, this is this. And all the politicians and movie stars and corporate execs and students and mothers and fathers, they all agree on these things, what they are. All of them consent to this construct version of reality. And this is the way it is. It's not some other way, this is the way it is. And everybody follows suit, we all follow suit. And it's in this continual observance of the construct and its routines and traditions and customs that gives it its solidity. And repetition is a very, very important part of that. It's only by beginning to move away from that construct and actually reimagining what things are that you figure out something quite astonishing, which is we're actually full of ideas and creative ideas of what the alternatives look like. But you can't do that from within the construct. And I have this little phrase, you cannot change the dream from within the dream. You have to step outside of it to see it. It is that persuasive, compelling nature of the construct that stems from everybody's agreement with it, that it's the norm, it's the way things are, it's the real world. One could say that normality is the religion of the construct. So to move away from that is to risk being shunned, is to risk being a loony or to be strange or to be a cultist or something like that, or a new ager or whatever. And that is the thing that has to be overcome, that fundamentally what we see as normal is actually not normal. It's abnormal. And the way we've been doing things for many, many thousands of years is not normal. It's not the way people want to live. And it's not the way people want to behave. And it's this flipping that over on its head to make those apparently negative things positive That's what gives the construct its hive mentality, and this is precisely what it relies upon for its kind of structural integrity. And it's only where a certain threshold of people, a certain frequency of consciousness, when they start to lose faith in the construct, it begins to falter, it begins to lose its equilibrium. And that's what we see happening now. People are losing the faith in what it is. So what the construct tries to do is immediately offer an alternative, because it knows that most people don't realize that they can do that themselves, that you don't need anyone else to do it for you. You can do it yourself. But the construct is clever, and it knows that people don't realize that, because we've been taught to believe that really we're just biological machines and we don't really generate anything, we just try and make the best of what we've got. It doesn't work like that. It really does not work like that. We have to say a very simple thing. We have to understand something here. Why question what is commonly considered to be the best map of reality, the construct? Why walk away from that when that has represented the sort of received wisdom of thousands of years of human history? Why would we walk away from that? And for me, there's 3 points there, 3 answers. The first one, on a collective level, the historical story of human beings on this planet has not been a very sane narrative, and it's full of pain and hardship. And those things have become so common, so commonplace, that we're tempted to think that that's just the way it is. That's the way things are with human beings. The second point is this: on an individual level, we are compelled to realize that the construct is not our personal map, it's someone else's. So the way we see reality through this group tunnel is not ours, it's someone else's. So it may not, therefore, be best suited to our own individual journey. And the third point, on a metaphysical level, and this is really important, I want to be very clear about this, with a bit of contemplation and a bit of stillness in seeing this, it is very clear that we have habitually come to confuse our description of reality, the construct, with reality itself. As has been pointed out many times by many people throughout the years, the map is not the terrain. The Hindu spiritual sages obviously referred to the fake map as Maya, a beguiling concealment, they called it. And that is very much what the construct is, but it's become less organic even as that concealment. It's very synthetic now. But at the inner level, when we're completely authentic with ourselves, we all know full well that the human story has gone off track a little bit, and the system under which we operate does not serve us very well, and it never has done.
Here comes the cop, and now watch. Does it look like he... Boom, boom, and now to the ground he goes.
And so it is time to do things differently, and that begins with moving away from the construct. A bank robber who wants to rob the bank, the first thing he has to do is bypass the security system. And the key to doing that, to penetrating that security system, is in understanding who created the system, how it was created, and what actually is it designed to protect. And so the construct has to be viewed in that sense. Who created it? How? What is the construct designed to protect? Because there's an organic element to it, which is part of the mystery of being on Earth, to perceive that. But there is a definite synthetic element to it as well. And it's that synthetic element that deserves our analysis. Very often we can say that the left brain impulse in humans to label and categorize and file and turn everything into this huge taxonomy, this hierarchical system of classification, doesn't really help us hugely in that respect. And so we have to exercise the right brain impulse a little more, the intuitive impulse, the creative impulse. If you accept the taxonomy, the structure, the hierarchy of the construct, and you agree with that, then it appears that you get a lot of freedom within it, because you can choose from this sort of vast shopping list of things. You know, name what you want and it's all there. You can drive what you want, live where you want, drink and eat what you want, play sport, vote, have sex, join the army, join the Masons, whatever you want to do. You can do anything, whatever. That's the genius of the construct, and it feels like freedom when you can select from its shopping list, but it is not freedom. That overwhelming degree of choice really deters people from any further contemplation of what real liberation is, what real freedom is. It's only by moving away from that construct that we begin to understand that we do have our own choices, and you only know that when you begin to do it. And the easiest way to do it, to begin that inching away from it, because it's not wise to entirely jump out of it if you've spent your whole life there, because it's too much of a shock. It's like jumping into a freezing cold ocean. It's just a massive shock to the system, and the impulse is just to jump right back out again. So you have to do it little by little. It's a prudent way of approaching it. And the way to do that is to move away from its media, is to move away from its broadcasts.
We'll do it live! Fuck it! Do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live! Fucking thing sucks!
In 5, 4, 3.
They do not represent actual reality in any way, shape or form. The filters of those broadcasts are so at odds with what's actually happening in the world that it really deters us from seeing clearly from our own filters, from our own way of looking at things, and it creates a sort of noise. So we have to decontaminate ourselves from the mainstream media, and that's a very powerful way of doing that. Not just don't watch TV, the whole thing, everything. So to move away from that noise creates space for us to receive the real signal of reality. The only signal is the organic signal, and that does not come through the media. It's not possible to perceive clearly when you're continually force-feeding yourself with news and violence and sport and celebrity and those deceits. You have to detach from it. A very wonderful thing happens, which is that your view of reality begins to shift to a real one. So you still see the black and white and the grey, you still see the positives and you still see the negatives. You don't detach yourself by hiding, you detach yourself by reformulating your own perceptive apparatus to say, I am going to see things as they are. I'm still going to walk through New York City, I'm still going to walk through London, I'm still going to walk through the countryside and see things as they are, but I am going to decide what is newsworthy, and I am going to decide how much attention I pay to local, national, international affairs, and what is relevant and what's important. And so you can still look at whatever you want to do, but you claim the power in this respect by determining for yourself what you want to look at, what you want to put your energy into, what you want to become conscious of.
thousands and thousands of years of evolution. Man still remains as he was, slightly, probably, little modified, but basically he's cruel, violent, antagonistic, competitive, and so on. Each one of us thinks we're independent individuals with his own sick, narrow problems and limited points of view. But when one begins to inquire deeply, why human beings, after so many million years, why have we become like this? Divided, fragmented, contradictory, confused, everlastingly seeking pleasure, never ending his sorrow, never comprehending his relationship to the world and to each other. Why there is this infinite conflict between man and man.
Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video presentation. If you did, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, like the video, and share it on your favorite social media sites. There's a lot more to come, so stay tuned and we'll see you back next time.